Ladies and gentlemen and citizens, today is our 100th anniversary of the Irish Republican Brotherhood's and Fenian Republican Brotherhood's rising. And I know that the Irish Republican, but we're airbrushed out of history by the provisional government, and I think it's a very sad state for those volunteers who went out today and gave their lives for you, that you would have a better life. And I think, we will achieve it eventually. They achieved the sovereign government. The name of the state that they achieved is the Sovereign Republic of Éire. And it's just sad to think that in the Sovereign Republic of Éire today, we have 5 governments. We have the British government in Northern Ireland, we have the 6-county government in Stormont, we have the provisional government in Leinster House, imposed by King George V on the 6th of December 1921 as a British apartheid system for the 26 and 6 counties of Ireland as an Orange-Free state and a provisional government. That's what we have today in Leinster House. It's known as the Royal Dáil and the Royal Oireachtas. They don't recognise we have the sovereign government. And then we have the European government. And then we have the sovereign government by the will of all the people in the 1918 32 county election from GHQ Vaughan's Hotels, which is up there in Parnell Square. And I must congratulate Bartle Darcy on his exhibition at the Rotunda, that he opened up all those tunnels to Vaughan's Hotel. That's how they escaped. We would not have bought, my family would not have bought Vaughan's Hotel without those tunnels, because you would not have, we wouldn't have been able to win the 32 county election of 1918, and we wouldn't have been able to win the War of Independence without those. The printing press, they were all printed there, and that's how that Michael Collins and the 12 Apostles and all, Harry Boland and all those people were going up and down to Vaughan's Hotel. And those tunnels are there probably for a couple of 100 years. And they're so important that the people know where your sovereignty came out of. And if you heard Seamus O'Sullivan reading the proclamation, and Harry O'Reilly, our Vice President, reading the Sovereign Constitution, they're the foundation documents of the state, the Sovereign Republic of Éire. And they founded, by the will of all the people in the 1918 32 county election, the sovereign government of Dáil Éireann, which was in the Mansion House. Dáil Éireann has never sat in Leinster House. Dáil Éireann never left the Mansion House. So I think there's a lot of politicians have a lot of explaining to do, while they keep on now saying that they're going to Dáil Éireann. But the Irish Republican Brotherhood want that sovereign government by the will of all the people in the 1918 32 county election established. That government was established on the 21st of January 1919. All the institutions of the state were up and working. All the departments. Michael Collins was Minister for Finance on the 6th of December 1921, when King George V imposed the British apartheid system for the 26 and 6 counties of Ireland. He was only provisional minister, and that's all we have today. I have explained the 5 governments that they have. Those 4 governments don't recognise that sovereign government by the will of all the people on the 21st of January 1919. That government is still there, it's never been dissolved, nor has anyone the right to dissolve that government. And I can tell you that we have 5 constitutions, and I would like to ask the courts which one they're using. We have the Sovereign Constitution, we have the Free State Constitution imposed by King George V in the Shelburne Hotel. We have De Valera's 37 Constitution, when the Crown of England wouldn't allow him to put in Republic. There's no Republic in the 37. We have the British Constitution, and we have the European Constitution. But Harry read for you the only one by the sovereign citizens, that's you, is the first one, and that's the Sovereign Constitution. And we want that established again. And we want all, when we're in Europe, and I think we have done fairly well in Europe, but the Crown of England is not the sovereign. The Crown is royalty, and it's the heart that's sovereignty. The British government do not have a sovereign government. They have a royal government, and they have a royal courts of justice. They depend on our harp for sovereignty, and that's 1155. And I think all that should come out. And I think it's only fair that people should be told the truth. And I think it's very important. When General de Gaulle, he wouldn't allow Britain or Ireland to join the common market was the EEC at the time, because Britain didn't have a sovereign government. They depended on their sovereignty from the harp. And I think it's very important that comes to the Truth, Reconciliation and Prosperity process, which was founded down at the University of Limerick in 1950. It was predicated on the Queen's visit, that all that information would be shared with the citizens here of our country and of Britain. And I think it's very important when David Cameron said the other day that the people in Britain are sovereign, and that their vote in Europe will be a sovereign vote. They're getting their sovereignty from us. The people in Britain are subjects to the Crown. You can't be subject to the Crown and be sovereignty at the same time. And I think it should be explained from all politicians, and you should be told the truth of what happened to those people here in 1916 and what they gave their lives for. That you would be, the first four strings of the harp, you see it there over the door, is earth, air, fire and water, man's intellect and reason and his five senses. And you have a right, every citizen, ours, harp, I said, was the covenant between God and man with all the information and knowledge for his planet Earth and our civilization. And the first four strings are earth, air, fire and water, referred to in the Constitution. And you have a sovereign right to those. You have a sovereign right to the assets of the state, to education, hospital care, and a happy life. And with five governments that I read out, we should be the best governed state in the world. And instead of that, with five governments, we're the worst governed state in the world. And it's time you stood up to the politicians and made sure that you are told the truth. You vote for them, and you should be given those rights. All the assets should be there for you and your children. Every child here is born sovereign, and every child born in Britain is born subject to the Crown. And I think we know the difference, and we know where they get their sovereignty from. It's from the harp. And when the Queen, and that should be made very clear to people here. And we're going to raise our tricolour flag at 12 noon. Have half an hour. But that's what they did here. That tricolour flag, it was brought here by Thomas Francis Marr, who was a Fenian, and it was adopted by the Irish and Fenian Republican Brotherhood as the national standard. The Fenians were around, and so were the Young Irelanders. And James Stephens, who founded the Irish Republican Brotherhood down at 16 Lombard Street on St. Patrick's Day, 1858, and John O'Mahony, who founded the Fenian Brotherhood in Dohoney's in America. And they are sister organizations. They were the ones who founded the 1916 Rising. And yesterday I saw Heather Humphreys on television out in at Glasnevin, and she wouldn't even lay a wreath on James Stephens or John O'Mahony's grave. I think that is the desecration. We have to stop that being desecrating our what those people did, our tricolour, our proclamation and our sovereign constitution. You are the sovereign, and you should stand up and be treated as sovereigns, and we should have a proper sovereign government that we had on the 21st of January 1919. It's still there, it's never been dissolved. And what are they talking about? This provisional government that they can't decide on. And I think we're not a political party, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, but we hold the mandate of the 1918 32 county election. Sinn Féin was the political wing of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. They won the 1918 32 county election. And Ogle na HÉireann is the military wing of the Irish Republic. They won the War of Independence. And that all happened there at Vaughan's Hotel, which we came down from this morning. And I think it's very important that you're told the proper truth. And I see that the tricolour has been delivered to every school and the proclamation. And yet none of those children are taught anything about their sovereignty. What's the sovereign seal, which is over the door there? The Book of Psalms is the Psalter, and that's the psaltery, the instrument that accompanies the Psalms. It's Anno Domini 2016, and I think there's people today who gave their lives would be delighted to see it, and to see we have a wonderful country. All we need is that sovereign government that was voted for by the will of all the people in the 1918 32 county election. And I would say thank you very much, and we'll raise our tricolour at 12 noon, which is flying today there since then. It was never captured. The tricolour was taken down by Diarmaid Lynch, and it was taken up. You know what happened. You can't understand 1916 if you don't understand that when Sir Edward Carson founded the Ulster Volunteers in 1912, and in 1913 they became the UVF Army. And what happened was that they bought the top-class German guns, and they became the UVF Army. And Guinness's Lord Rothschild and Rupert Kipling paid. Guinness's gave 100,000, Lord Rothschild gave 100,000, and Rupert Kipling gave 50,000 to buy those guns. And the Crown of England did not object to that. And yet, when Sir Roger Casement bought the guns here, he was executed, he was hanged for doing the very same thing that Guinness's and Lord Rothschild and Rupert Kipling did. You know, there's a big discrepancy of how we're treated. And the British government, in 1913, the intelligence officers of the Irish Republican Brotherhood reported to the Supreme Council of what happened. And they founded the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizens Army as a defence force. We don't have an army, we have a defence force. And we have them, and in 1914, the UVF Army declared war on Britain and Ireland if Home Rule was imposed by the British government. And I think it's very important that you understand that we do not go to war with anybody. And I told you that tricolour flag here in 1916 was taken down and was brought up. They went up, that was the escape plan, was up Moore Street and down those tunnels which are there on the rotunda. You can see them from here. And I must thank Darcy for opening those tunnels. After 53 years, we finally can see them. And that was the escape plan. If they could get across the road, they would have got down those plans and they would have escaped to all the safe houses. And it's very important to know those two events in 1916. You can't understand, but we don't want to go to war with anybody. Always the Irish Republican Brotherhood is always the right and welfare of the sovereign citizens, and that's you. And all the assets of the states should be yours and for your children. And your children are sovereign citizens here. And we're very proud of that, and we're very proud of those people who made it happen. And I think the world today needs the Irish Republican Brotherhood and their proclamation and their sovereign constitution. People are sovereign and they should be looked after, and we should be properly governed. And I think we would be properly governed with that sovereign government. Nobody has dissolved that government, and let anybody stand up and tell me that that government, by the will of all the people in the 1918 32 county election, we go to the Mansion House every year on the 21st of January, and we hold that, and we turn the sovereign seals for that. And I think there's a wonderful achievement by those volunteers and Citizens Army, and Cumann and Nafina and Nini Nahairn, what they did for us, and I don't think we appreciate it today because we're not told the truth. And I thank you very much, and we'll have our raising of the tricolour at 12 noon. Thank you indeed.